ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only We Too Deep. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seat. This is slapping me, yes, slapping me.
What is up, everybody? It is your boy We Too Deep, and we are back with another episode of the Slapping Meat Community Show. There was no show Tuesday. Wasn't feeling the greatest. Still not really feeling the greatest. But able to do a show today, and it's not going to be a fan question Friday. I want to start this off the jump. I am a open book. I believe one of the greatest aspects of community building and building a community is actually communicating with that community. So many creators, especially if they're larger creators, don't accept like one-on-one conversations with people in the community. And that would be, even if this thing grows to be, a big deal in the internet space, it's going to put in some work. It's going to require a lot of support for that to happen. But let's say it did. I would hope in that situation that I would still be open to these one-on-one conversations. And I had a member of the Discord. I'm sure she'll be fine with me naming her. Kara came to me and was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I'm probably only going to be asking questions like bi-weekly. I'm running out of questions." And we had this conversation about it, and I agree with her. This constant ask me anything format every single week, I think can become a bit much. And I think it makes a challenge for a lot of people in asking questions and me answering questions. I'm down to answer whatever gets asked, but I need questions asked. And so with that being said, we'll do it. We'll do Ask Me Anything once a month as its own episode, with the idea of one, stockpiling questions, but two, to make it to where the questions aren't like you aren't forced every week to ask questions. So we'll move that monthly. I'm not going to announce what week of the month it's going to be at this point, because there's going to be some changes maybe in the posting schedule of the show. Excuse me. When I guess I'll announce the news here. The current job that I work, I will only be there for another month. July 11th will be my last day, because July 13th, I'm starting a new job, much better. It's better pay. I don't have to travel 30 minutes. Most of the time, I'll probably work from home. And so there's a lot better work-life stuff. But with that, I don't necessarily. It's not like a traditional 8 to 5, 9 to 6, or whatever type morning job. Excuse me. It more than likely, I know for my training, I'll spend 3 weeks working that morning shift, but I'm pretty certain I'm going to be running second shift. It's like a call center type thing. So my work will probably be 12 to 8, 1 to 9 type thing. And so with that, it depends on if that's accurate or not. There may be episodes posted at the same time on the same days. And episodes might be posted in the morning rather at night on Tuesdays. It really just depends on what the schedule looks like. But so I'll announce all of that once it becomes more clear. But just for everyone to know, Fan Question Friday will be a once a month thing. And we will just move on from there. So Sunday has an opportunity to be one of the greatest sports days of the year. And what I mean by that is the NBA Finals. Now I look like an idiot for not researching this because Junkyard James told me this, that the NBA Finals were going to be on Sunday with the NHL Finals, and I just believed them. But anyway, this weekend could be one of the better weekends of the finals. So Saturday we got the NBA Finals. If the Knicks win, they win the NBA championship. And that's the last thing we need is New York winning another championship. I was asked the question who I was going for. And I'm just anti-New York everything just because I am a Boston sports fan. The last thing we need is New York winning something. I think the Spurs, I'm going to be honest with you, I think the Spurs win on Saturday. Make it 3-2. Part of me feels like the Spurs are going to win the next two. I wouldn't bet on it. I really wouldn't. But I want to talk about it. Like, this should be a 2-2 series. What we saw, if you watched the game, last game, was an absolute embarrassment. How do you give up? Like, see, in football, it makes sense. Like, football makes sense to me. Where you're up 28-3 and you lose the game. That makes sense to me. Because you're dealing in either 3-point plays, 6-point plays, or 7-point series, right? A 28-3 lead can be gone in 3 good defensive series and 3 touchdowns. Your lead's over. In basketball, if you take a 30-point lead, seeing that you're dealing with 2-point possessions, maybe a 3-point possession, that is still, at best, 10 possessions. When most teams are averaging, and let me double check this. Let me make sure I'm giving you correct facts. So let's look up how many possessions on average does a team get in the NBA. I mean, you're probably, if everything goes right, getting 40 possessions? I lied. About 40 possessions a half. Because the average, it says in modern NBA, team averages are about 98 to 101 possessions per game. So you're getting probably about 45 to 50 possessions a half. Meaning, at best, and no one's going to score on every single possession. Assuming you score, and so I want to see if I can look this up as well. What's the percentage of possessions that end in points? Because not everyone scores on every possession. Okay, so on average, about 45 to 50% of possessions end in points. So you're looking at 100 possessions per game with about 50 of them ending in points, right? So, meaning you're probably getting about 50 possessions a half, and you're hitting somewhere between 25 to 28-ish, maybe 30 of those possessions actually ending in points. Meaning, at best, your score, you could technically, if you're hitting 30 possessions going in with points and you're hitting three-pointers and all of that, if you're scoring 90 points a half, you're unstoppable. The point that I'm trying to make is they were up 30 about halfway through the third, right? So on average, you had about a 10 possession lead at best, anywhere between about a 10 to 15 possession lead, and you had about a quarter and a half, and so you probably had about 30 possessions left that the Knicks would have had to come back. When the league average would say that they would probably only score, of those 30 remaining possessions, they would probably only score on 15 of them. Meaning they could probably tie the game if you never scored again, which is essentially what happened. But the probability of you never scoring again on your possessions is just absolutely insane. How do you play such bad offense? How do you play such bad defense to give up a 30-point lead? It makes no sense to me what we saw on that, right? Right. So it's easy to give up a 3-possession lead in the NFL if you fumble the ball, or because in the NFL you're probably, you're taking longer possessions, right? A drive in the NFL could last literally, realistically, 6 to 10 minutes if it's done properly. And so the drives are longer, so you get less possession, but there's more points. To me, it's easier to come back in the NFL. You saw how the Patriots did it, right? It was slow, steady. It wasn't like the comeback happened in the third quarter. It went till the very end of the game. The Patriots driving back and coming back and winning. And I'm not saying either of them are acceptable. I'm just asking how in basketball, it makes sense that the Falcons, I don't think if the Falcons scored, they scored a field goal. I don't think they scored a touchdown in the second half. I could be wrong. I'm be honest, even as a fan, I don't remember the final score of the game, but I do remember, 28-3 being the halftime score. Okay, so they did score, and they scored one touchdown in the third, right? So, okay, yeah. So it wasn't even at halftime. So at halftime it was 21-3. They came out and scored right out of halftime. I'm remembering the game now. It's been almost 10 years. I'm remembering the game now. So they went into halftime 21-3. They came out and scored the first points of the second half, probably assuming, we got this. Patriots ended the third quarter down 28-9. Right? Had to take it to overtime. Like I said, this wasn't like one of those things where the third quarter they came and dominated, and no, they had to score 19 straight points in the fourth quarter, tie the game up, take it to overtime, and score a touchdown. Right? First off, I didn't realize that team was 17-2 that year. Crazy. About to happen again this year. No, I'm kidding. Speaking of that, I was supposed to be doing a 2026 season predictor thing I wanted to originally do that last Sunday. Lost track of time. I was trying to get me and Cody and James to do it as like a big special. I just think that the arguments would be fun. And so I'm still working out the details with that. We'll have it done before the season starts, though. I'm going to try to get it done by the end of July. We shall see. Let's see. Let's get back to my point of what I was saying. Now, the NHL, I'll be honest. I'm a hockey fan. I'm so tired of these teams, bro. These teams outside of hockey area, right? If you've noticed, if you were to ask, I would say most people in the country, what is hockey country? Everyone would say the North, the Northern Midwest and the Northeast. Maybe the Mid-Atlantic. But if you've noticed the last couple years, and I think this is on purpose, I think, and I'm not saying that the NHL is rigging things, but I think on purpose the NHL is trying to push that like hockey is for everyone and that there are good fans in the South, and there's not. There's not a single good fan base, in my opinion, for a Southern team. Nashville's fun occasionally. When the team was good, they were a good fan base, but that just shows you they're not a good fan base because they're not the same energy. And maybe it's just because I don't see a lot of Nashville games anymore. Maybe I'm missing something. But as a fan of an original six hockey team in Boston, like hockey, when it's not Patriot season, hockey is life. Especially because the Red Sox suck. Just absolutely abysmal and have been. I get it. We've had we've won 4 World Series since 2000. But so like there's not a lot to complain about. Like hearing a Red Sox fan complain about that, like I get it. I know it sounds kind of entitled. Oh, we suck even though in the last 26 years we've won 4 World Series. But just realistically, the team is ass. And a lot of it has to do with ownership. But like the Celtics are a good team. I guess for me, I don't know the Boston. We are a basketball town. They are a basketball town. The Celtics are good. But like when the Bruins are playing, like hockey is life, bro. These northern teams, the northern Midwest, so Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, even like something like Columbus, Ohio, even though not that big of a hockey town, the team's not good, so there's no reason to celebrate it. But and in Columbus, like the biggest thing you can cheer for is Ohio State. But like when I ask you what hockey town is, most of y'all probably thought like New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, like places where it snows and it's cold most of the time. But over the last like decade, if you've noticed, a lot of the team and I feel like there is a league-wide agenda to try to get these out west, and there's nothing wrong with out west. But like when I think of hockey, I don't think of Las Vegas. Especially in the summer, when this is being played, it's like 100 degrees, bro. They played the Stanley Cup game last night in Raleigh, here in North Carolina, and it was 99 degrees, bro. That's not hockey weather. No one's playing hockey in 99 degrees. Right, we had like Florida the last few years, Tampa, Dallas made it one year. Right, like there's this push to try to get hockey to be popular in areas where it historically isn't popular. And I don't know if it's working. Because here's what I know. Here's what I know. Living in the state of North Carolina. Let's say the Hurricanes, and they most likely will win the Stanley Cup. I'm predicting it. I think it's going to happen. They just got to win one more. The odds that they lose at home if they go to a Game 7 is pretty low. But right? If the Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup, right, the fans are going to be outrageous. Look how good we are. And they have a right for that. They're a really good team. But let's just say in 5 years, they sell off all the good players. They don't re-sign anyone. They go through rebuilds. They go through a rebuild, right? The coach is fired. The team is ass. I promise you, Lenovo Center will not be full. People will start selling their season tickets. You know how I know this? Because Carolina sports fans, and this is for all sports, the same thing happens with the Panthers. The same thing happens with the Hornets when they're not good. Carolina sports fans are fair weather. When the team isn't going well, they just don't see a reason to show up and cheer for the team. And that's what will happen. Just look at the Hurricane Stadium in the early 2010s when the team just wasn't good. I'm sure they weren't selling out stadiums, right? Now face that against some of these original 6 teams that sell out every single game no matter how bad the team is. And I'm not saying these Southern teams don't have that kind of support, but look at Florida. Florida was literally a meme like 5-10 years ago for how little fan base they get in their stadium when their team was just the bottom of the league. They had like 12 fans in the stadium. So the point of me saying this is, generally if my team's not in the finals, I pick a team to cheer for because it gives me a reason to watch the finals. And most people would assume that I would go for Carolina because I live in the state. I'm going to be honest with you. Outside of my best friend who is a Carolina Hurricanes fan, I don't like Hurricanes fans. I tolerate him because he's not one of the bad ones. But I don't like Carolina Hurricane fans. I've had a lot of bad experiences with them. Not like harassment in terms of like fist fights or whatever. But like I went to a game. It was a playoff game a couple years ago. It was the Bruins versus the Hurricanes in Raleigh. I drove the 2 hours to the stadium. Got there. Of course, being a Bruins fan, I was decked out in Bruins gear, but I represented all of Boston sports. I had like my Patriot pants on, and sure, did I look out of place? Probably. But I was just representing my sports teams, right? Just representing all of Boston sports. That's what, right? And just the amount of just like, they lost the game, and I'm leaving the stadium. The Bruins won. Bruins won the game. And the amount of shit talk. Oh, you guys got lucky. You look stupid with those clothes on. Blah, blah, blah. The Bruins talk. Bro, you lost the game. You don't get the shit talk a fan of the opposing team if you lost the game. Now, luckily, I'm not a Spurs fan in New York when the Spurs went because I would have probably been beaten. Like, what's going on there in New York? This is why I don't like New York, bro. You see that stuff, bro? The Spurs won Game 3. And if you had a Spurs jersey on, you had a risk of getting mobbed and beat up for just repping another team. Craziness. But yeah, so like with hockey, like I'm not and here's the thing, I don't like Vegas. I absolutely despise Vegas. Here's why I despise Vegas. Vegas was the experiment in the hockey expansion. And by being the experiment, but I also think the league has been trying to get a team in Vegas forever. Now notice, Vegas has been in the league, I think, 10 years. They've gone to 3 Stanley Cups finals in 10 years. And if they win this one, if they somehow find a way to win Game 6 and Game 7, they'll have their second Stanley Cup title in their team's history. Like, I think they've been to the playoffs every year of their team's existence. This doesn't happen if you don't change they literally changed the expansion rules so that the league could get a team in Vegas and get a good team in Vegas because they knew they wouldn't have a fan base to support the team if they weren't good. And so they had to put a good team on ice. And I'm not going to hate them for keeping it for 10 years. I just think that it's easier to do. Like, look at Seattle's struggling. Right? Seattle is struggling to perform. They've made the playoffs, I think, 1 year in their existence. But, like, the Seattle Kraken struggled, bro. They haven't had near the success that Vegas had. And it's because Vegas had an advantage in their expansion process. Because the league wanted a big team in Vegas. And so, like, Vegas does well, and, like, I sit there and I'm like, yeah, because you had that advantage. You had an advantage over any other expansion team ever. And so I dislike both of these teams. I dislike both of their fan bases. I think both will be fair weather fan bases if their team sucked. I just want a Stanley Cup for once where it's like Boston versus Chicago again. One, I want my revenge from 2013 because we should have won that series. Or Boston versus St. Louis again because we should have won that Stanley Cup as well in 2013. 2017 was Vegas, 13 was Chicago. Yeah. So I was going to say Sunday has a chance to be a crazy day, but this weekend we could see 2 championships, and I hope it does because I'm tired of having to actually care about these 2 sports. It's football time, guys. It's football season, and I'm ready for football to be the main focus of everything. I'm just going to be completely dead honest with you. I'm tired of having to pretend to care about the NHL now, right? Because my team's not there anymore. And I just don't care about any of the other teams in the league. So, let's move on from this topic. There's not much more to say about it, but craziness can happen this weekend. We could have, I think the Hurricanes I think the Knicks win tomorrow night, and I think Carolina wins on Sunday, and I think it's done. I think they're done. All right. This next topic, I need y'all to hear me out on this next topic. So here's the risk of this topic, and the reason I just hesitated. If y'all hear me wrong, this could sound very different than what my intention is. I'm not going to hold back on this. I'm going to tell you how I actually feel on this topic. Because I think we need to have these conversations. And I understand the risk that I'm about to put out there for saying what I'm about to say. I understand the risk. People may not listen to me no more. I understand that. I think, and here's why I'm not going to back down from talking about this, because I've thought about, like, why even put this out there? I think we need voices just in the ether to talk about what they feel on topics like this. And we've had questions on Fan Question Fridays that may have leaned towards this direction, but I'm about to get very blunt and honest with you all on a particular situation. And I don't. There could be people who hear this that don't like what I'm about to say. And I'm okay with that. Here's what I ask. Listen to the whole point before you try to respond. What tends to happen is a lot of people listen to the first portion of a segment or of a conversation like this, and they don't let the whole thing play. Just listen. I think we need to practice a lot of listening in today's society. A lot of people like to talk. Not a lot of people like to listen. Listen to what I got to say. Hear me out. I'm not forcing you to agree with me, but I do want to create this conversation, and I do want to create a place where this conversation can take place. But I'm not going to allow a conversation where it is demonstrably based on emotion. Y'all know me. I'm a factual, logical person. Your statements, your opinions have to be based on the facts of the circumstances. Right? And so with that, now that I preface it, now that I laid that groundwork, let's just go ahead in. We're going to talk about the Carmelo Anthony conviction. Now, going into this process, it's been a couple months since the event happened. I remember seeing the event happen, like the actual crime, stabbing, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to. Here's the problem with having this: is I'm trying not to get to my to set this up. I'm trying to set it up unbiasedly, so that when I come to my point, you don't think it's biased. And so I want to put on record when I say crime. I don't know when it is a crime because he was arrested for it. Whether or not you think he's guilty, that's a different situation. We'll talk about that. But when the actual stabbing happened and I saw it, I had an immediate opinion, but I don't live in Texas. I wasn't really concerned with what happened. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I had an opinion, but I really just didn't think it necessary to really speak on it. When it first happened. As more things come out about, of the case and everything, and GoFundMe's are exposed, and what the money was actually used for is exposed. Well, here's what I'm doing. I'm building up my opinion, but I'm really not speaking about it still. I just didn't think that it was my place to talk about it. Until at least the trial is over. Because I feel like when you speak in allegedlys, when you speak out of place, that leads you to a position where you have to run things back and say, "Hey, I said this and I shouldn't have." I didn't want to have to be that person. I didn't know all the facts. Now, I didn't watch the trial. Cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom, so they weren't airing it. So we were really just listening to, depending on people who were in the courthouse who were posting about it, about what was going on, and whether or not you trust that source. And so I don't know what happened with the trial. I wasn't really paying that much attention. From my understanding, Carmelo Anthony's lawyer and his defense team was just awful. From my understanding, it wasn't the best, job. And then ultimately he ends up convicted, and sentenced to 35 years. Whether or not you think that's justice or not, because there's three categories you could think in. Either he was wrongly convicted, and that's one category you could sit in. He was wrongly convicted. You could sit in he was rightly convicted and 35 years is enough camp, or you can say he was rightly convicted and 35 years is not enough. Those are the three camps you can sit in. I'm in one of those camps. We'll get to that in a minute. I think we need to discuss... Well, let's get to that point first, actually. And then we can discuss, I think, what this case shows us. I personally... So first off, I don't... If Carmelo Anthony... If what was presented as evidence in the trial, that he went into that tent looking for someone to start a fight with, that is intent. And whether it was Austin Metcalf or anyone else, like I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm going to go kill that white guy. But from what it sounded like, there was at least some level of intent to start drama in the tent. From what I've read and what I've heard people say, that there is a belief that he had intent. If that is true, and he had intent to start a fight, this is not manslaughter, which is ultimately what they lowered the charge down to. This was premeditated, this was intentional, and this is murder. Now that's hard to sell a jury, and it's hard to get a conviction on that. Which is why they lowered the charge to manslaughter, which is why he only got 35 years. I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. If there was that intent, if that is true, he should get life. He should get life in prison. At the least. This is where worldview comes into account. I am a big proponent of the death penalty. I think it is when used correctly, not overused, when used correctly, it is a great deterrent from crime to happen. And what has happened in America, in our culture, is we've essentially created a bunch of people who aren't afraid to do crimes because there is no punishment for them. How do we stop this? Put a deterrent up. If you intentionally murder someone, you lose your right to live. That's literally how I feel. And it doesn't matter if it's Carmelo Anthony or if the roles were reversed. Right? Because I know the response is going to be, oh, well, you're just saying that because of his skin cut. No, I'm not a payer of respects just because you're a certain level of melanin. You also, this is where it comes into understand, I don't believe there's different colors. We're all brown. I've gone on this before. We're all brown. I'm so tired of this division, guys. It's exactly what the people in charge want. They want a race war because, again, I've said this. They want us arguing about things we can't control so that we don't look at the people in charge and say, well, no, it's rich versus poor. It's elite versus us peons down here. And so many people are like, right now, I don't like the response on both sides of this. I'm just going to be completely honest. I don't like the Black Lives Matter-esque far left supporting response. He's innocent. He did nothing wrong. Let's go around and you know, mess with innocent white people who had nothing to do with this because all white people are bad. I don't like that response. That's not rational. Two people in Tampa, Florida, on the same day he was sentenced, just out of the blue, filmed on camera. First off, why are we filming crimes? People are stupid, bro. Right? Filmed on camera in Florida while the case was in Texas. In Florida, two people filmed on camera, two black people walking up to random white people who just seem to be minding their business, falsely accusing them of being in jury selection, and then hitting them in the face. That's not a society we can live with, guys. That's not an activity we can allow to happen in a sane society. That's not a good response to this. But I also don't like the far-right response. I don't like the far-right response. The Elijah Schaffer's, he has some new girl now. So Elijah Schaffer makes a lot, like if the Blaze gets rid of you, for some of your views, you know you're just a grifter. And Elijah Schaffer is one of the biggest grifters, and he takes on a lot of these more attractive. Now this one's not that attractive. She's like a 5, bro. But he takes on these like female counterparts to walk around with them that say these outlandish things. This is a quote from this girl in front of all these people. Oh, they're chimping out. That's not a good response, bro. Like, I see all of these AI videos of Carmelo in jail, about to meet Bubba, about to be someone's bitch. That's not a good response. We shouldn't be laughing at this situation. 2 lives were destroyed. We shouldn't be laughing at this. And this is why it's hard for me to claim that I'm conservative. Because I'm not that. I'm not happy with the fact that a 17-year-old has to spend the next 35 years in prison. I want to try to fix this. Because we have to ask what led to this. Not in the individual moments, but what in culture led to where... Can we just be honest for a minute? Black culture in 2026 sucks. It's not the black culture of the 50s or the 60s. It's just not. Can we be honest for a second? The civil rights movement created a class of citizen known as the victim class, where they know all they had to do was play the victim and people will care for them. Like, oh, you don't, because, and can we just be honest? The boomer generation is the part of this problem. The boomer generation sat around the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and they saw what happened in the 40s and the 50s, and they saw the civil rights movement and the Birmingham bombings and the fire hoses, all things that are despicable things that should have never happened. Should have never happened. I'm not going to sit here and act like there wasn't things in America's history that shouldn't have happened. There absolutely was. Absolutely. But what happened is this boomer generation saw this and they felt guilty for it. And they tried to fix it. And their fix was the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Act. And none of this actually has led to anything positive in society. The Booker T. Washington warned about this, by the way. If they would have followed Booker T. Washington instead of Martin Luther King, actual benefits may have come from that movement. Booker T. Washington's philosophy was just work your work, do what you got to do, don't trust the government, bro. Be self-sufficient. Learn to grow your own stuff. But they followed Martin Luther King. They followed this victim class. I don't know if y'all know this, by the way. Martin Luther King was not a Christian by any means. And I could say this because he doesn't believe the actual he doesn't believe in the requirements to believe in it to be considered a Christian. Like he denied the divinity of Christ. He denied the Trinity. Certain things that from the time after Christ, from the first century, the beginning of the religion, the church leaders said, this is what you need to do to be considered one of us. This is what you need to believe. He didn't believe those things. He was funded by white communist who funded him. A lot of them wrote his speeches for him. I'm not saying that the Civil Rights Act itself was a bad thing. I'm saying the movement actually didn't lead to progress. It led to division. It led to a lot of racial tension. And I don't actually think it led to progress. Because I believe, like Denzel Washington said, you're never going to get rid of racism if you keep talking about it. Racial tensions in this country showed up the second Barack Obama got into office and started talking about racial tensions again. Are there things that happen in this country that should not happen? Absolutely. This is not one of those. Like, this was justice, guys. You can't just go with intent, cause a fight, and then stab someone in the heart. But I'm not one of those that are just going to say, oh, let him. Now, I will sit here and say, I believe he shouldn't be in prison. I believe he should be the deterrent from the next person thinking they can do this. Just honestly, because I believe that the government has the right. In my worldview, the death penalty is a command to make sure society stays sane. Genesis 9 says anyone who takes a life loses their life, essentially. I can read the actual verse for you if you would like me to. This is why this is difficult, because when you call for the death penalty, like, now again, fair trial, due process, convicted, we know he did it. Now let him be made an example of why you don't do this thing. Genesis 9:6 says, whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For the image of God he made man. The idea being, you kill an image bearer of God, you forfeit your right to exist. If you on purpose intentionally murder someone, right? And I believe we should continue that. 100%. Right? I understand the legalities as to why they went with the lesser charge, which means if he has good behavior, in 17 years he can get out. And I hope he's rehabilitated. But here's what I know. He's probably not going to be rehabilitated. In fact, he's probably going to be even more messed up. I pray he doesn't run into the Aryans. Like, genuinely. I don't want, like, there are so many people, like, I see these callous responses on X, he probably won't even survive in prison, right? Almost hoping for it, and that hurts me, bro, because he is an image bearer. He can be fixed. Can we talk about what led to this? I can tell you what led to it. He had bad parents. You know how I know this? Because they made $1 million for a supposed defense fund off the name of their son, who's 17. I don't believe he's a cold-hearted killer. I don't. I think this happened. I think he was looking to start a fight. I think this happened. There have been reports that he was worried about him if he was going to survive or not. I don't believe he's cold-hearted. I think he's going to be made into one in prison. I think this was a situation that could have been avoided. But here's what the downfall is. Black culture sucks, bro. When the gangster rap scene that everyone seems to praise for some reason, when that became mainstream black culture, that changed everything. That culture sucks, bro. We shouldn't parade that stuff. We shouldn't praise twerking on camera. We shouldn't praise being gangsters. We shouldn't praise that life. And this isn't, and here's here's where I'll fight back a little from people who say that's just black culture. That's white culture now too. You know how many white hoochie mamas want to try? That's just ghetto culture. Ghetto culture's toxic, and it's not a color thing. I hate that people try to place a color label on it because it's not. It's not. There are rednecks in West Virginia who live in the trailer parks who act the same way. But this ghetto culture where people, their pants hanging at their ankles, acting ghetto, trying to get in fights all the time. This type of culture, this is why people were trying to say it's black fatigue. It's not black fatigue for me, because I'm not fatigued of, because here's the thing, I know it's not all black people. It's ghetto fatigue for me. It's how you act. It's ghetto fatigue. But here's the reality of the situation. If you think the way Donald Trump speaks is, and you don't want to know what the next generations are going to bring about. Because I'm just going to be honest with you, we don't give a fuck. I'm just going to be straight up honest. Coming from me, I do not care if you think I'm racist. I know I'm not, and that's all that matters. I'm not going to do anything that is, because I do think there are racist things that can be done. I don't do those. I'm not here trying to get clicks. There are some grifters out there who say things to try to get clicks. Right? I didn't finish the other person's, that woman, I'm going to call her a little girl. She's like 20 years old, it looks like. And she's like, oh, they're chimping out. I'm not going to finish the rest of the quote because I'm not going to say the word. But yeah, the N-word was used. Full ER. It's all for clicks. It's all for, right? But genuinely, I think Gen Z, Gen Alpha, when they start getting in you're not going to want to hear what they got to say. Because they grew up in a world where if you didn't feel guilty for being white, and you were told all the time you're evil, your ancestors were evil, you're creating the very enemy you claim to have. Because they're just not going to care. They're just not going to care. I know for me, for one, I'm tired of being told that because of something I couldn't control, that I have a privilege and that I'm better in life. Guys, my bank account literally reads negative $89 right now. There's no privilege going on right now. You know what the privilege that I had was? I had parents that actually taught me how to act right. That's my privilege. I don't do stupid shit. That's my privilege. I don't go around looking for trouble and trying to fight everyone or looking for ways to bend the law. That's my privilege. And I'm tired of sitting here and I can't I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This is a thing that affects me deeply, because growing up as a kid, there would be nights where I would hate being white. Because I thought that, I'm being genuine, just being genuinely honest with you. Because I thought that was the greatest sin. But then I woke up, came to the actual reality, I couldn't control that. And my ancestors, my Irish ancestors, if we want to go that far back, they were in the ghettos before black people were. They built the railroads with right? They built all, a lot of America as well. My Irish ancestors, my Scottish ancestors, my German ancestors, who came here and lived in the slums, did some of the hard work, poor. There's a lot of German ancestry in the Appalachian Mountains, what we would call the hillbillies or the rednecks. Yeah, those are my German ancestors, my Irish ancestors. we grew up like I'm just so tired of being told that, bro, you got a privilege. Because it sure don't feel like it. It sure don't feel like it. In this situation, I think, is evidence of what I've just said. It's a culture thing, bro. Nature and nurture are important. How you raise your kids is important. If you raise your kids is important. A lot of this issue comes into there's no discipline. There's no teaching. And I ultimately will say that what is happening isn't like people are just acting bad or there's like, oh, why? No, we haven't been taught how to act correct. And I think a lot of this is spiritual. Right? There was a dude arrested, I don't even remember, in North Carolina somewhere. He just got released out of jail. He's a white dude. Just got released out of jail. He's back in jail now for he was running around some city in North Carolina with a machete. He slashed like 4 people's tires. Tried to slash some dude. Right? And that's a white dude. That's why I'm not going to go as far as to say this is just black culture. It's human culture, guys. This is human nature. We are literally by nature designed. If we were left alone and if God said, I'm tired of these people, bro. I'm just going to take my hand off of it and let them do what they want to do, guys. We would have a Holocaust tomorrow. You know how I know this? Because in Belfast, a Muslim tried to behead a white guy. In Belfast, Northern Ireland. Go look it up. It's gruesome, bro. He didn't die. Luckily, a mob stormed this dude. He's arrested. He's probably going to be left free because of reasons. But this dude literally almost got beheaded. He's now blind for the rest of his life. He's messed up, bro. You know how I know we would have a Holocaust tomorrow if God took his hands off of us as a people? Because that's what's in our human nature. The only thing that separates me from Hitler is the fact that I understand the truth of who God is and who I am. And that I am in desperate need. And Hitler is just the ultimate reaction of what happens when you are given over to the sins of your mind and in your wildest dreams. I think we would have a lot of Hitlers running around if God just took his hands off the world and said, do what you want to do. Because we're all selfish. We're all narcissistic. We're all psychopaths. By nature. We only care about ourselves. By nature. You don't have to be taught to kill. Guys, this idea of killing someone goes all the way back 3 seconds after you flip the page, they get tossed out of the Garden of Eden. You flip the page and there's a murder, bro. You ain't got to go very far to look back to where this happened. This is just human nature. And what we don't need to make America great again anymore, guys. Because it's always going to be great. It's the greatest country to ever exist. Just on principle of the foundation of what it was founded to be. We need to make American culture Christian again. And I'm sorry if that offends people. This country, the reason why in this country, like immediately we ended the Revolutionary War, we became a country, and immediately we went to war with Islam. Because Muslim pirates were trying to kill our Navy men, and we were over helping the French, I believe. Right? We immediately went to war against Islam. Because of it by nature, the culture of Islam is to kill. That is in the founding documents. The entire purpose is to kill. And I'm willing to say that. I don't care who it offends. Don't care. We need to be open about these type of conversations because we have culture. If we continue to allow this culture to die and to go the way it's going, we will be an overtaken, occupied nation. And guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. What happened in Belfast can happen in America. It can, if we don't take it back. Look at the occupation of the UK in the last 5 years. Happens quick. And New York City is going to be the mecca of it. And I use that term for a reason. New York City is going to be the mecca of... We're going to see what happens in New York City when you allow that worldview to take over. We already see what's happening in Dearborn, Michigan. But we're going to see in New York City, which is already a shithole, how much more awful it gets when you let that worldview take over. And it's not just happening there; it's happening in Texas. It's the fastest growing Muslim state in the world right now is Texas. They're building mosques all over the place, guys. Just saying. This is a human nature thing. This isn't a black versus white thing. This is human nature. We're all sinners, bro. We just need to find the truth again. I beat this dead horse. So we'll move on to the next topic. Which is, I just want to talk some quick football real quick. I just want to ask a question, because I don't have an answer and I don't have a lot of commentary. I just want to know what is going on with Brandon Aiyuk. I just want to mention it just so Kara can get a laugh out of it. Me and her talked about it a little bit. She explained it to me. Bro's going crazy. He was one of the dudes that I was like, if he got released, I would like to bring him in. Nah, bro. He's never playing football again, bro. I just don't believe it. I don't believe he'll play. If the Niners cut him, which I don't know if they will, I don't see a situation where any team will sign Brandon Aiyuk ever again. He done AB'd his career, bro. And that's all I'll say about it. Just a quick thing. Money in the Bank, I don't know if you saw this. Money in the Bank was pushed back to October. And I was like, well, that's a weird decision. It's still in New Orleans. Why are we pushing it back? Well, come to find out, we're getting Sunday night's main event that day, September 6th or 7th. I don't remember what day it was, but I think it's September 6th. Let me double check this. I want to tell you proper information. Yeah, September 6th. Sunday night's main event. This is Labor Day weekend. Guys, it's clear what they're doing. Well, it's not really clear what they're doing because you already had an event scheduled that day. Like, you already were rumored to have Money in the Bank that day to go up against All Out. Which, by the way, that's All Out. That's AEW All Out's day because Tony runs Labor Day. I don't understand why you would run a Peacock or NBC show over a PLE. I don't understand it. I'm just gonna be honest with you. There has to be a reason for it. I just don't understand it. But there's that. So we got Sunday night's main event going head to head with All Out, which seems to be a favorite thing that WWE is trying to do, is go head to head with AEW, because June 28th I think is Great American Bash, and it's also Slammiversary, and it's also Forbidden Door. It's crazy. 3 big wrestling events on the same day. Excuse me. I don't know, bro. It's kind of stupid in my opinion, but I don't get if WWE's being petty to do that. Like, I'm all for running events the same day. Like, I think you have the right to do that, but I think when you start doing it multiple times and you change show dates, now it's starting to get to like a level of pettiness, and I'm like, bro, it's just, there's no need for this. But then the last thing, I'm going to go on another sort of long dialogue, hopefully not too long, because I think this also goes down to what I was just talking about. I think the theme of this episode is I really am concerned that this could be the last generation of America. Because we're seeing things that are happening that historically lead to the fall of empires. And one of those things is happening on Sunday, the 14th. For those who don't know, June 14th is our president's birthday. And how does he decide to throw his birthday party? How about let's run, I don't know, hear me out here. Let's run a UFC event on the White House lawn. Now, I didn't pick up on it that it was Trump's birthday, and he's trying to sell it off as it's a Support America 250 event. Bro, this is your birthday bash, bro. Guys, this isn't a coincidence. This is an election year. His approval ratings kind of in the toilet, even among his own base. You know what this is? This is an attempt to win favor back. That's all this is. This is something an elitist would think of. Let's run a UFC event at my house, the White House, on my birthday. Who knows? He's probably going to get on the microphone and give a speech at some point during this event. I can see that happening. He's going to try to raise his approval rating. Heading into the midterms, he's going to overpromise and underdeliver. Right? This whole thing is stupid. And those who don't know history are deemed to repeat it. That's a quote that I live by. This reminds me so much of the Roman Empire. Towards the end of the Roman Empire. Now, granted, there were a lot of things happening at that time. There are a lot of different pieces as to why the Roman Empire fell. Culturally, it was promiscuous. You slept around with everyone. There was civil discourse, civil war pretty much among the citizenry. People were so divided. They were stretched thin militarily because they got into wars on all fronts. They tried to expand, and that expansion led to a wide, vast empire that they couldn't govern the entire thing. Like the entire known world at the time, like from Spain to India. Think how much that is. All of the Middle East, India, Turkey, Spain. At its farthest extent, I even think it went up to Britain. Like most of what is now Europe, Asia, the Middle East. I think the only areas they really didn't have would be like Germany, Austria, Poland, Russia. Most of Africa was in the, or at least the livable parts of Africa at the time, like Egypt and Ethiopia were part of the empire. Like this was a vast empire, unable to be governed. Civil discourse, civil unrest, high inflation, no jobs, and people were fighting, the citizenry were fighting. Does that not sound like America? And what did the emperor at the time, I just had his name, because I did some research on this, again, I like giving proper information. Okay, there was no name of it, but a lot of the emperors towards the end of this, they started doing like public spectacles, whether it was like gladiator games, chariot races, entertainment spectacles, and they did it to try to get like political favor, reinforce their legitimacy. Like, look at what I was able to build. The Roman poet Juvenal criticized the Roman populace for being distracted by the bread and circuses. That's where the phrase came from. And I'm going to do the same thing Juvenal did, and I'm going to criticize the American populace. Stop being distracted by these things that don't matter, these bread and circus events. Bro, I'm not going to watch this event. I'm not even going to entertain this event after me talking about it. This is so stupid, bro. Now, I'm not saying this event in and of itself is going to lead to the downfall of America. I think America being too comfortable to allow this to happen without any, pushback. That we're just comfortable with being lied to, being abused by the government. That comfortability, the unwillingness to fight back. That's what's going to end our... So we're celebrating 250 this year, and there's this question: are we going to go to the Are we going to celebrate 300? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think we get to 300. I just don't. And I'm not trying to be black-pilled. I'm trying to be realistic. This empire, bro, I think we're going to get overtaken here soon if we don't stand up and fight for it, man. We're too comfortable. The citizens, I could care less about the elite in office, right? The citizens who allow this to happen, who really have the power in this country, country of the people, for the people, by the people. Well, if you're not going to be citizens, why does that matter? If you're just going to be comfortable with your entertainment and your OnlyFans and your Pornhub and your sporting events, look, I'm not downing sports. I love sports. Love them. I think that sporting events and concerts and all of these things are good entertainment sources, but you can't just only care about being comfortable and doing the entertainment, right? You have to fight for, if you want to continue to have those things, you have to fight for them, bro. You have to make sure that there's a country that will allow them to still happen. You got to be a citizen, bro. Once you do your duty as a citizen, and and typically that meant going out and being a productive member of society. Once you do that, then you can be entertained with your video games and your sporting events. But if you're not willing to be a productive fighting member, a citizen who's informed, knows what needs, right? That's the problem with a lot of, we're just gonna go vote. Well, you don't know what you're voting for, bro. And you just vote for the same stuff time in and time out. I don't even know why anyone would vote, especially in a state like California, where they're just going to pay homeless people to rig the vote. So, if we're not going to fight for it, we're going to lose it. And that's what I believe is going to happen. Because I think so much of the normie population, they're just too comfortable. It's too much to give up. There's too much money in sports betting and fantasy sports, and all of these things are fun things to participate in. But if you're not willing to be a citizen, they're going to be your downfall. I mean, some of the things we're allowing today, if you would have gone back 20 years ago to the early 2000s and said, hey, males are going to play in female sports, you would have been laughed out of any room, whether it was a Democrat room or a Republican room. Both sides understood that was crazy talk 20 years ago. But it's normalized today. No one's willing to fight against it. If I would have told you in 2001, in the aftermath of 9/11, that the same religion that did that attack is going to be the mayor of that city, and if I told you that in 2001, I told you that on September 12th, 2001, the same religion that did that are going to instill a person in this very city to be the mayor, you would have laughed me out of the room. If I would have told you in the aftermath of 9/11 that the same religion that did that's going to overtake the entire city of Dearborn, Michigan, in the 2010s and 2020s, and that there will be calls to prayer in that city heard over loudspeakers for the entire city to hear, you would laugh me out of the room. That would have been so ridiculous at that time, but it happened. If I would have told you in the aftermath of 9/11, then in 2026, Texas, of all places, Texas would be the fastest growing Muslim population on the world, you would have laughed me out of the room. But it's happening under our noses, and no one seems to care. This is a hard episode to listen to. I get it. It's not going to make me popular in the podcast streams, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And with that, thank you all for listening. I'm way too deep. I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Slap and Meat Community Show.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride, whether it's NXT or NFL time. Going in the ropes and fourth and deep, Slap and Meat Community every Tuesday. Open immunity, yeah. Immunity, yeah. Every Tuesday, every Tuesday. Open immunity, yeah. Immunity, yeah. Every Tuesday.